Hello. So, this week, I wanted to make my video about what it was like to detransition when I came to college. Basically, I just want to talk about the very beginning stages of when I decided to detransition, what I went through. To supplement this, I have a journal that I kept for the first, maybe the first 2 weeks of college. So I haven't read these. I guess I should clarify to begin with. I haven't read any of these since I wrote them. So I'm reading these as you're hearing them, like for the first time since I wrote them. So that's like 6 months ago. So be prepared for that. Okay. So this is 10 days after I started school. So it's not from the very first day, but it's right before I decided to detransition. And so I want to read this and kind of analyze the different pieces of it. Okay, so first of all, Lucas Palmer, that was my name. It's not anymore. I legally changed it recently. So August 27th, 2019. College day 11, class day 2. So this is my second day of college classes ever. I'm so happy I did this because I, honest to God, haven't had a journal in so long. So I'm writing this because I know that in approximately 2 years and 5 months, I will look back on this day and crack the fuck up. Well, to be fair, it's only approximately 6 months later that I am looking back on this day and cracking the fuck up. Which I always... See, that's part of who I am, is I always love to look towards the future. This is how you don't take life too seriously, because things change a lot all the time, and things are getting better all the time. So just to recap for my 22-year-old self, I'm just playing into the joke. Let's go over some cold hard facts for the day. As you can tell, I'm very cool. I'm 19 years old, freshman in college. I did say the city that I live in, but I'm not going to tell you. My sister lives here too, and she loves to hang out often. I had my second day of classes today, and I have a feeling some of them might kick my ass. Global current events, in parentheses, which is a class that I decided to drop 2 weeks later. So, yeah, you're right. But knowing that my smug smile my future self has while reading this old note makes it all worthwhile. See, I make myself happy with those. I know these classes won't kill me. They'll be over in the blink of an eye. This is 100% true. I actually really ended up enjoying my first semester of college. It was amazing. Like, all of my classes, I loved them all so much. Like, they were really hard, and they did kick my ass for sure, but they were amazing and worth it. Okay, now it starts to get a little bit depressing, because I was starting to get really in my feelings, and I wasn't really sure what I was thinking or what I was feeling at this time. So I have vivid memories of ripping up, tearing, taking immense glee in destroying and throwing out pages upon pages of journals I had kept for years, thinking as though I could destroy the evidence of even existing between the years 2011 and 2014. So that was when I was 11 until I was 14. I used to keep journals like this where I would just talk about my day. I used to write poetry. I used to draw a lot, and I had journals full of writing that I had done because I've always been a writer. But I remember after I came out as trans, I ripped up all of my old journals because I didn't want any of that evidence to exist, any of any of the evidence of my old self. I didn't want that to exist anymore. So it was also a lot of details of the old, the stuff that I had gone through, the trauma I had gone through, the depression, the anxiety, the mental hospital stays, like everything I had gone through. I put them all into those journals and I wrote to let it all out. And I ripped them up one day because I was like, I'll never want these again. I'll never care about these. I'll never look at these. I'm never going back to that old self that I was. And I really truly believed that. So let's continue. But the memories will forever stay burned into the part of my brain that deals with trauma. And thus my coping skills have remained similarly ineffective for dealing with stressors in everyday life. I'm not sure how long it took me to learn this skill, but turning off my feelings has been the default method for dealing with literally anything for years. I've talked about this a lot. That's how testosterone made me feel. It made me feel as though I just could shut off whatever I felt. Whatever feelings I had, I could just push them away and turn them off because the testosterone allowed me to do that. So that's what I'm talking about here. I didn't explicitly mention the testosterone because I didn't connect that it had such a big effect on me yet. Okay, and then I start to get really emo. Okay, you're so fucking emo? Jesus Christ, what was wrong with me back then? Okay, so I kept reading and I just talked a lot about a crush that I had on someone last semester, which I don't want to get into because they might watch these. And then at the end, oh my gosh, I'm getting really emo. The anecdote about the way I tore my journals resonates strongly with the facade I try to put on today. I rip and tear my feelings away, trying to bury them under a mass of other garbage, ultimately failing because they'll resurface in the landfill not too much later. That's so... what a vivid mental picture. That's really great writing. But it is true. Okay, here's a very relevant piece of information. This is from the end of my journal entry. It's kind of actually really foreshadowing. I think logically the reason why I latch on to the first person that will show me affection or any sort of remote attention at all is because I have this deep sinking feeling that as a trans male, no one that I am attracted to will ever want me. The worst part is, I don't think that's entirely false. Until, in parentheses, if I get bottom surgery, being trans will always be an important factor of whoever I want to sleep with, especially gay guys. I have very limited dating options, and it feels really awful. When I would literally go for anyone, it's impossible to wrap my brain around the fact that some people just straight up won't fuck me or date me for that matter because of who I am. It's honestly soul-crushing, and I've seen it too many times. Hearing that is downright painful. It's almost 1 a.m., so I'm going to end it with, fuck me, I hate myself. For some reason, it feels good to say that. Wow, okay. That was very emotionally charged, and I think the reason for that is because I was just... that was kind of kickstarting me realizing that I couldn't keep dealing with that. And honestly, like, I don't want anyone to say, like, in the comments, like, oh my god, the reason why she detransitioned is because, like, she hates herself and she didn't want to be trans. Like, it's not that I hated myself and I hated being trans. It's that I realized it was making life harder and I didn't need to be trans anymore. Like, there just comes a breaking point where you're like, this is never going to get better. And it's kind of pointless to keep going when, for me, it was never going to reach a point where I was going to be completely comfortable with myself and completely comfortable with the way people saw me, I guess. And being trans wasn't leading me down that path of like self-acceptance and self-love. So I found that path for myself, and it happened to be detransitioning. So that's where I ended up. This is still pretty relatable, actually. Wow, I was really self-aware of all the problems that I was having, I think. I'm just going to read a part of this because I don't want to read all of it. It's also really depressing, and it's not all relevant. So my emotions have become an overwhelming part of my life now. Any little thing may send my emotions spiraling into sadness, anger, or whatever the case may be. I kept a wall around me at my house for at least 5 years to protect myself and my own mental health. Now that I'm away, this wall is quickly crumbling down. I don't know how to deal with all the new emotions coming on. I have the urge to run away or get high or drunk or something, and I don't even really know why. I almost started crying an hour ago when thinking about this. I almost feel depressed again, but it's not numb. It's the opposite, a flood. Oh my God, I did not, oh, wow. It's really weird to look back at this because I didn't realize how much, like, I didn't realize anything about myself. Like, I didn't know. I didn't know what the problem was. Oh my God. Wow, that's really sad. Okay. Oh, also, by the way, that was on August 29th. They're both the same date, but I think it was like later that day. August 29th, 2019. Here it is. I realized at 2:30 this morning that I am agender. I enjoy both aspects of what sex hormones have done to me, and I feel much more confident now that I will be able to express myself through clothing, style, trends, etc., without feeling pressure to identify as a boy just because I've taken testosterone. I wore a bra in public and saw people I knew, and I felt liberated. It'll take a while to get used to the freedom that being agender brings. I felt this weight come off. And then I made a little Venn diagram. Here, I'll show this to you guys. So this is what testosterone did, and I crossed out like 7 different things where I was like testosterone, and then I was like masculine, and then I was like estrogen, and then I was like feminine, and then I was like womanly. I don't even remember. Feminine. Okay, so then I wrote deep voice, number 1 perk on the testosterone chart. It's very obvious, very clearly the best thing testosterone did for me. Facial hair, second best thing, my favorite. Face shape, that's changed. What does that say? Muscles, those have gone away. Easier control of emotions. You don't understand, buddy. You don't get it. Feminine perks, curves, I like those. Boobs, sometimes. I like those. Clothes, what does that even mean? Clothes? What is wrong with you? That's not those. Okay, body hair, negatives. This is negatives. Body hair, true. That's gone away. Hair falling out, that's gone away. Periods, they exist. They're fine. They're not that bad. Lack of emotions, those are back. Boobs, sometimes. Not really. It's just, they're just there. Non-gendered perks. Feeling confident with my appearance, whether it's a suit or a bra. You don't have to transition for that, my dude. Anyways, so that was August 29th, and now on to August 30th. The next day. The next day. I realized today that I am a woman. I am going to mull it over, think and talk it through, talk to my sister and my mom. I already began using they, them, but I'm thinking about straight up going back to my birth name and she, her. I know I'm going to stop testosterone and try to get on birth control to get my estrogen back. Well, you didn't have to do that. You just let it happen. I didn't want to get periods. That's why I wanted to go on birth control. But I didn't end up doing that because I don't need to. Before, when I came out as trans, I had to make up signs to justify it to myself. Since thinking about being a woman, I've thought back on some older thoughts of mine, and this just makes so much sense. Wondering why I couldn't be a cis woman, being jealous of women, wanting everything that comes with being a woman, physically, socially, and emotionally. I will never really be a man, not the man I would want to be. And I feel that reverting my transition and presenting as a woman is what I need to experience right now. I've been thinking about this for months, if not years, for real this time, because that's what I said when I transitioned too. All the gender identity crises I've had since March of 2019, being a woman was the simple solution. I miss being a woman. I never really got to. That's true. I was 16 when I went on testosterone, so I was never an adult woman. And I had so many awful experiences with men. No wonder I wanted to transition and get away from all of that objectification. The thing is, over the last year, when I thought about getting older, I started subconsciously seeing myself as an older woman. Then I thought about how much easier all relationships would be. I thought about having kids one day. I thought about how suppressed my emotions have been. How I have been testy, frustrated, still wondering what's wrong with me. My relationships have been unfulfilled. The longer I get into my transition, the less I see myself as a man. That's a big one. That just sums it up. The more I realize I will never be one, to the people that matter, my potential mates, and myself. Yeah. I have been wanting to integrate into women's spaces again, to be part of a community. It was isolating as a trans man. I never felt like I fit in with men, but then I couldn't fit in with women anymore. I don't completely regret the last 5 years. It was necessary for me to somewhat understand the male perspective. But I am ready to be embraced back into the female community. This is where I belong. This is who I am. I am most excited to be hit on by straight men again. Well, didn't have to wait long for that. I'm going to take it slow for now, hopefully easing off / cutting off testosterone, finding a doctor, and starting estrogen birth control. I want to be feminine. Best wishes to my future self. August 30th, 2019. And then I was signing using my birth name because I went back to that at the beginning. But then my family started calling me Elle, and I realized that's what I wanted to go by. So, okay, the next day, or maybe January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, 2 days later, September 1st, 2019. I'm still thinking about being a woman. Well, thank God you didn't change your mind so quick. The more women I see in public, the more I solidify it in my head. My birth name is starting to seem less foreign, and now I'm seeing my future self in my head instead of my 14-year-old self. What? Oh, I was talking about my birth name. No, you're not going by that anymore. I bought a razor and some sports bras today. That's the first step to becoming a woman. The only thing that really upsets me is my voice. September 1st, 2019. Which is ironically the thing I hated most about myself before transition. That's true. I'm sure I can work on it, but I can't help but be bitter when I think that if I had never heard of the online trans communities, I would never have wanted to transition. It's so awful. If only I had listened to my first therapist. Wow, you really sound like all the YouTube comments right now. I should go back and thank her. I actually really want to. That would be a great video. Thanking my first therapist for telling me not to transition. And then I did, but I should tell her that, wow. What? I really knew that I was going to go by Elle from the very beginning. I have it written down on September 7th. Elle, E-L-L-E. I did not realize I had come up with that already. Oh wait, yeah, I did, because I was like, I want to be like Elle Woods. That's where I got it from. But then my family started calling me that, and I was like, okay. So here's something I've noticed about myself. If I have like something going on, or if I have like a problem, I will obsess over it, kind of. But then I will move like from obsession to obsession. So I talked about this in my video, why my personality influenced my identity, but it's kind of like I noticed myself falling into like having a crush on someone when I started to get really deep introspection into myself and wanting to detransition. And so once I realized like that I wanted to detransition and began the process and realized I just had to wait for a really long time for anything to change, I started to like focus elsewhere so that I wasn't ruminating and getting really obsessed. And so then I started to focus on this crush that I had on this person, and ended up kind of spending the whole semester thinking about that. More than anything else, like more than my detransition, even though it was happening concurrently. Also, I hadn't told anyone for the first few weeks. So everyone just assumed I was a guy. I mean, people knew I was trans because I told them, because I wanted people to know. But most people would just like be like, yeah, you're a guy. And eventually I ended up telling people probably like a month later. So I'm just talking about my crush. And I don't care. I don't have a crush on this person anymore, so. I did say I have a feeling that this person will be a very important detail in my life story. I'll keep an eye on the character development. I don't like how foreboding that is. This person is definitely still someone who's very relevant in my life, but I wouldn't want to say that they are a very important detail in my life story, because that kind of freaks me out. That makes it sound like he's gonna like murder me or something. So, and then my next entry wasn't until October 9th. So I was updating a few college things, but that was a month later. Okay, so that's the end. That's the end. There's not really a very conclusive, satisfying ending to this. Basically, yeah, that's about it. So, I'll just talk a little bit more about what was going through my head at this time. So, when I came out to everyone as detransitioning on Halloween, October 31st. Actually, it was November 1st. It was the next day after Halloween, because I went to a party on Halloween and I realized that I didn't want to introduce myself as Luke. I wanted to introduce myself as Laurel, or Elle. I was like, now I know that I don't want people to see me as a guy anymore. I am not a guy, and I'm starting to look less like a guy. And so I was like, okay, so I want people to see me the way that I see me. And it has taken a very long time to get to the point where I'm comfortable with like the way people address me and stuff like that, because a lot of the time people will still call me he, and people will still address me as male in public. It's just a fact of life. Like, it just happens. Like, it's especially the way my voice sounds. But it's also just that it takes a long time to get back to the state that my body was in before I went on testosterone. So I'm not gonna obsess or worry about that anymore, because it really doesn't matter how other people see me. I'm getting to the point where I am just learning to be okay with who I am and my body. And I'm realizing that, like, I'm healthy and I am an adult and I am a woman. Like, it doesn't matter how other people see me, because I am my own person. Like, I am not the product of what other people see. Like, I get to be someone. I get to be my own person. Like, I make my own destiny or whatever. Like, it's really not, it doesn't matter what other people see, because I'm the only one who has to look at myself and look in the mirror every day and see what I see and be who I am. So as long as I like myself, I don't care what other people see or what other people think. So that's where I'm getting to. It's taken a long time to understand that, because I think being trans, you kind of base a lot of your self-worth and your validation of yourself on other people and what other people think of you. And I think coming out of that, I've just had to kind of relearn my self-confidence, realize that other people don't have to see me as this like attractive, like perfect version of myself. Like, I'm just me. And so I'm not perfect. I'm not the perfect woman. I'm not the perfect person, but like, I am me, and that's all I can be. So it's great. So yeah, that's my video. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more of my videos, please hit that subscribe button and then hit that little bell so that you'll be notified whenever I post a new video. It's usually every Wednesday. I'm going to start trying to post on a schedule so that I'm probably going to be posting like Wednesday mornings for me. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye. I just hit my elbow on the table.